is 13 September 2023, and we are going to discuss the NASDAQ as CPI numbers were out today, which were hotter than expected. Nothing difficult, but if you look at the calendar on investing.com, we saw that the CPI numbers were higher than expected, like slightly higher. Like the CPI year on year was like expected 4.3%. But the core CPI monthly was slightly higher, 0.3%, while it was 0.2% expected. So this whole CPI report was also mentioned in the news outlets like on CNBC. So hotter than expected. But if you look at the NASDAQ for today, we saw a huge downside right at the moment when, at this time, this is the moment when the CPI report came out. We see a very volatile moment at this point. It dropped down until like 15,205 and jumped up after that moment, even also after the opening of the stock market went higher. And we are now almost to the closing, 25 minutes left, and it seems that we are dropping again. As I mentioned yesterday, looking at the rising trend channel, this whole purple area, it should be that this should be a very strong support line, but as you can see during the night, it broke down. So if you look at the bigger picture for, let's say, 2-hour candle, we can expect that the NASDAQ will go further down. So there are two lines at the moment. So we are closing into a very critical area because the trading range is getting narrower, and in the end the index should make a decision whether it's going to be up or going to be down. So my first initial expectation is that because we broke down this support line of the rising trending channel, I expect it to go down until this line. This is the second support line for the rising trend channel. So this would mean that in the coming 3 days, or probably at the end of this week, we will reach 15,130 again. So I would say that this is a good entry point from here to go long with your NASDAQ positions and hold it until we reach the red line here. And wait if we will break or bounce back from it. So this is how I see it at the moment. We are in a very critical place. It's still like at the bottom of the rising trend channel, but since we already broke down, I don't see that this line is valid anymore. So we are now turning our focus to the second support line of the rising trend channel. And to be honest, it's like the NASDAQ is looking for a direction, and the traders are not really expecting any changes soon to the Federal Reserve rates for this month. There will be no rate hike, but the expectation is still for the next month that there will be a final rate hike for this year. So let's see what happens next. We will still have like PPI numbers coming up in the coming days, but it seems that the CPI number report didn't have any huge effect on the NASDAQ. So let's turn our focus to the S&P. How it looks at the moment. We are in a similar position for the S&P. It's also going down a bit, but there is not a huge difference compared to yesterday. It's still very volatile. It's looking for any direction, but it seems that we are now in a trading range, which is between let me see, between these levels approximately. So for the S&P, we are between 4,487 and 4,446. So expect that this trading range will continue and whether we will break it. I also recommend to use other technical indicators like the RSI, which is the relative strength index. It really explains whether there is still some potential for an upside or a downside. And if you look at the RSC on the 2 hours, we see it's a 47, so it's in the middle range. And even for the 4 hour, it's also 47. So like NASDAQ, there is no currently a decisive direction whether it would be going up or down. So if I were you, I would wait until you open any trade, just like the NASDAQ. It also applies for the S&P 500. Just waiting for the right opportunity. And I believe that waiting until we hit the bottom, because I initially think this is going to be more likely for both indexes, NASDAQ and S&P, that will go down in the coming days, at the end of the week at least, hitting the support line of the rising channel, and from there we can start our long positions. So that's like mainly it for today. I would say just wait like 1 or 2 days to see whether it will go down or up. But for now, we need some validation before we can make any trades. Thanks, and see you by the next one. Cheers.